Sup everyone, welcome back to another video, and today of course we have to talk about this. A lot of people has asked for my opinion. I decided to stay out of discussing this because honestly there's a lot of frustration that comes with this, right? Like there's people who already made videos, so I'm not going to reiterate a lot of those points, but a lot of people aren't very happy. But I'm sure there are those who kind of have this type of abyss and changes scratch their itch, even if it's just a little bit. But those are definitely the fewer in number. Now, if you guys haven't seen it, Soul actually made a video talking about this while he's playing it up a little bit as more of a ranty video, and we talked in Discord and I shared our exchange on my live stream. And so if you watch my live stream, you guys kind of know where this is going. It's basically talking about this difficulty spike that Hoyoverse is now kind of ramping up for Spyro Abyss. So endgame players, at least from Hoyoverse perspective, is like, well, you guys asked for it, so we're just delivering you guys what you asked for. Harder content. Now I use my air quotes here as harder because, as Soul has pointed out, it isn't necessarily the kind of difficulty that many of the endgame players were wanting, expecting, or needing. Now, before we continue, I just want to reiterate that I'm covering this from a different perspective than somebody who loves endgame and wants more difficult content. I could get more difficult content in Genshin. I would enjoy it. I could not, right? I could just fall back on whatever the hell I was doing before. I'm just happy cruising along, and to be honest, if I don't want to play, I don't want to play. But we're going to talk about this, especially because a lot of people have really been struggling with this iteration of Abyss, and the topic has finally started arising. Is it still even possible to 36-star the Spyro Abyss with free-to-play characters, or fully Constellation Zero free-to-play weapon 5 stars, or are we getting into the realm talking about, hey, just maybe it's time to consider getting some constellations for your characters? Now, I know when we get to this subject, free-to-plays, or the elite free-to-plays, as I would like to call them, don't enjoy what I'm about to say, and that's the fact that it's time to start thinking about getting constellations for your character. Vertical investment into characters are incredibly important in Genshin Impact the longer this game goes on, because base 5-star characters are just that. They're base. They're very rudimentary as to the things they can do. Sure, when it comes to support characters, oftentimes they're utilizing powerful artifacts to leverage a supportive feature back into your carries. However, you have to understand, how is Hoyoverse going to sell their reruns if they don't incentivize people pulling for constellations? I don't think anybody has posed this line of thought, which is, yes, they're jacking up the difficulty in Abyss, even if it's artificial and not really intuitive. It's just like increasing the HP more, making more annoying mechanics, basically just running down the clock. So even given the small windows that you have to attack the enemies, where they're not in a freaking different dimension, underground, in the sky, untargetable, whatever, right? They're really crunching down on this narrow window that you still have, even though they're like, oh, you have, like 3 minutes, but technically you only have around 2 minutes, because 1 minute of the fight usually involves you either getting whacked around or the enemies are untargetable. So Hoyoverse has created all these characters, a whole slew of characters that they've been selling for like onwards to 3 years now, and to be quite honest with you, there's a very little reason to pull for, I would say, 80% of the banners that come through. Very little reason, apart from I really like the character. I think the character looks great. I think the character has a very cool vibe, right? Those are legit enough reasons to pull for characters. But when it comes to combat, very little reasons for the vast majority of characters to even get picked up by people. And when it comes to the sales, it shows. Most of the sales usually gravitate towards characters that are strong and cool, because let's be honest, I don't think Hoyoverse really misses when it comes to creating characters. They're all unique and interesting in their own ways. It really comes down to their kits. There's going to be massive communities of people supporting different characters, whether if they are male, female, animal, chibi, whatever the hell they have. There's going to be people loving them to death, right? So now it comes down to their kits, and at C0, not all characters are made equal. A character like Alhaitham cannot be said to be equal to a character like Eula, for example. And also how much of the element that the character is in has been developed within the game to take advantage of incredible multipliers, artifact sets, right? Powerful weapons. Till this day, Stavahoma still one of the best spears you can get for any spear-based DPS characters. So how is it really fair when it comes to endgame content now ramping up even more? Back in the day, most people can get away with watching something on their second monitor, playing a C0 free-to-play weapon Eula at level 70 and still 36-star the Abyss, right? Again, I'm not saying that Eula can't anymore. I'm pretty sure she can, and I'm sure a quick Google search can prove my point. I haven't looked for it, but if I do find it, maybe I'll throw it up on screen. My point is, now it's gotten significantly harder. The amount of effort and time people have to put in to get the small amount of reward that Hoyoverse gives you guys is honestly not worth it, right? This is another big point that Soul has been talking about, is that the effort we're putting in is no longer worth what we're getting out. But again, I want to ask the question, has it ever been worth it, right? Because people used to think, oh, you know, I can get away spending maybe like 30 minutes to an hour in Spiral Abyss and I can get a couple summons. It was worth it. But from my perspective, it was never worth it. It's just that now it's come to a tipping point where that so much of your time is now demanded to 36 and getting that perfect clear of Spiral Abyss, that finally most people are seeing that the whole entire arduous task of going through the Spiral Abyss every single cycle just for the rewards doesn't feel very rewarding. We call it a reward because in exchange for our labor, our hard work, our efforts, we are given something in exchange that is of significant value to the point where we call a reward. You can also call it compensation, payment. But the term reward, I think, is already very misleading in this sense. This is no reward. This is scraps. This is Hoyoverse knobbing on some food and some scraps happen to drip down from their forearm to their elbow and then it dripped onto the ground. That's what we're like licking off of the pavement here, right? Never once have I thought that the stuff we were getting from the Spiral Abyss was a reward. That's just the wrong mindset to go about this to begin with. Now, I did warn you guys in the beginning that I didn't want to make this video because there's a lot of these kind of things on my mind that I've said in the past, and I've stopped saying them since, because I also understand the fundamental issue here, which is no matter how much we talk about this, no matter how much we are upset, we can write it into the feedbacks, nothing is going to change. You know why? Because Hoyoverse doesn't sell characters based off of strength or popularity or whatever. In fact, Hoyoverse doesn't really sell their characters, period. In this day and age, Hoyoverse can just release a 5-star character, close their eyes, don't post it on Twitter, don't post it anywhere. Hell, don't even put it in the beta. Just like next patch 3.8, throw out a character, the most generic character in terms of personality you can think of, give them long hair, maybe a bit curly, make them wear a somewhat skimpy outfit, get a relatively famous Japanese voice actor to act it, and then 2 days before the release of the character, drop a demo and watch the internet lose their freaking minds. That character is probably going to get millions. I'm not going to say tens or hundreds of millions. It's going to sell for millions and they're going to make back 10 times what they put in. That's the problem. It's the fact that they no longer have to try. What happens to companies that can make 10 times their investment without trying? And I'm saying 10 times being very reserved, right? I think the cost to develop a character from scratch versus what they make back in revenue, it's more than 10 times. So you tell me, as a player, no, as a consumer or maybe an entrepreneur, are you able to switch your perspective to that of Hoyoverse's? Why should they care? Why should they try? In fact, I'm already baffled the fact that they were willing to increase the HP pools, like throw new enemies in here and just keep cycling up Spiral Abyss. I thought they would have given up on this ages ago, right? When they said that this brings up too much stress and anxiety, how is what they're doing now not more anxiety inducing to players who are just clearing the abyss for the rewards? How is this any better than what they had a year ago, right? It's not. Which led me to the thought process of, okay, maybe then it's for Hoyoverse's own benefit. Then I started wondering, okay, are free-to-play players getting too comfortable? Are they clearing Abyss too consistently? Is the international team too overpowered and consistent? So it's just all these things led me to believe that maybe they're just jacking up the difficulty spike because they have the data to show most of the players who are still engaging within this game and playing it actively have actually spent less and less time 36 starring the Abyss or clearing the Abyss for that matter. Maybe the metric they're looking for is not 36 star, but just clearing it. Maybe most people are at 32 stars, 33 stars, and they're like, okay, most of them are past 30 stars, so now let's jack up the difficulty more. Let's make it so that they have to invest into more characters or better characters, or hey, get this, constellations of characters, weapons of characters, so we actually have reruns to sell for. Characters like Eula, C0, free-to-play weapon, just ain't gonna cut it as easily as a year ago. They have to make these rerun be worth something. I mean, Hell, survivability is starting to become an issue for some people. Maybe Zhao C4 was a visionary design, which its purpose is to service those Zhao players who are just dying too frequently in the modern 3.7 Abyss. Hoyoverse truly profits ahead of their time. Well, not really. Which leads me to another issue. Like, sure, they're incentivizing maybe older characters. You can start getting constellations, getting maybe even multiple copies of their weapons to boost their stats more. But a lot of the stuff that they released back in the day, like Venti C1, like Zhao C4, I keep going back to these, and other characters whose constellations maybe 2, maybe constellation 4, maybe constellation 1, just not good. To get to, let's say you want C2 for a character, but you have to get through the abysmal C1 of that character, basically throwing away money, burning money, or your hard-earned primo gems. And most people will not sit there and just watch months of their hard work eviscerate into nothingness. Sure, getting a C1 is still getting a C1, but why would you get C1 for a character whose C1 is like non-existent? For example, Venti. I love using Venti because his C1, God knows what the developer was thinking when he put that into his kit as a Constellation 1. That's worth like $100-$200. Come on now, let's be real here. You don't know what they were thinking. They probably didn't even know what they were thinking. And finally, let's just close this discussion, because let's be honest, even when it comes to constellation and vertical investment, there are only a few select characters that are actually worthwhile in terms of longevity. Let's say you're gonna get a character to C2 or C4 or hell, even C6. There are few selective characters who has a well and streamlined kit that has C1 flowing to 2 and then 4 and then 6, and also the character has a well-rounded roster of support characters to facilitate their playstyle. Very few characters in that sense, and well, fun is subjective, but come on guys, the Abyss is only one part of the issue, and highlighting this issue, I can sit here and talk for another hour about all the other details, but I'm not going to make you guys sit here. If you guys want to see more of this, I do talk about it on stream, and leave a comment down below if you guys want to hear more aspects of this. Like, honestly, I feel like at this point, I cannot continue talking without making this either a 50-minute video or maybe a 2-part video, but this runs even deeper than just Hoyoverse wanting to make more money with all the reruns, trying to maybe deliver what endgame players has wanted. They're trying to set up a system where it's kind of like a 2 foul, 1 arrow type deal, but it's really not working because free-to-play players or low spender were already struggling, probably doing previous iterations of Spiral Abyss in the past like patch or 2. It's actually gotten harder already, and now from that point even more difficult. I don't know how long people can still take this. At one point I think people are just gonna get to floor 11 and then stop. Like, why bother? Soul has a very well built account, better built than mine, and the only fact I can even still play the Spiral Abyss and even attempt 36 stars because I wailed out. But even he was saying like it's gonna get to a point where he's not gonna even care anymore, and I wonder how far along are we on that scale. But regardless, thank you guys for watching. Till next time, urge you all to stay safe. Peace.